December 20th, 1943, 11:30 a.m., 27,000 feet above the smoking industrial yards of Bremen, Germany. The temperature inside the cockpit is 60 degrees below zero, but Second Lieutenant Charlie Brown is sweating. He is wrestling a 40-ton beast that is trying to die. His hands, numb inside sheepskin gloves, grip the yoke of the old pub, a B-17 flying fortress that has been turned into a flying sieve. The roar is deafening, not just the engines, but the wind. The slipstream screams through gaping holes where the nose cone used to be, tearing through the fuselage like a hurricane. For Brown, a 21-year-old farm boy from West Virginia, this was supposed to be a standard run. His first mission as an aircraft commander. Now, it looks like it will be his last. Just minutes ago, they flew through a wall of flak so dense the sky turned black. Then came the fighters. Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109 swarmed the formation like angry hornets. They singled out the old pub, slashing it with 20mm cannon fire. Look around the aircraft. It's a slaughterhouse. The nose is completely blown open. The freezing wind is blasting directly into the pilot's face. The hydraulic system is gone. The oxygen system has been severed, meaning the crew is slipping in and out of consciousness, fighting the euphoric, deadly fog of hypoxia. Engine number 2 is dead. Engine 4 is runaway spinning wildly out of control. Engine 3 is sputtering. Only one engine is pulling its weight. The plane is vibrating so violently that the instrument panel is a blur. In the back, the situation is worse. The tail gunner, Sergeant Hugh Eckenrode, is dead, decapitated by a direct cannon hit. The waist gunners and the radio operator are wounded, their blood freezing instantly on the aluminum floor. The morphine syrettes are frozen solid. They have to warm them in their own mouths just to treat the wounded. Brown fights to keep the nose up. The bomber is straggling, falling miles behind the protection of the main formation. In the unforgiving logic of the air war, a straggler is a dead man. They are alone in the heart of the Reich, serving as a slow, smoking target for every anti-aircraft battery on the ground. But the ground isn't the problem anymore. Below them, on a jagged airstrip near the German border, a jagged shape begins to move. Oberleutnant Franz Stigler stands by his Messerschmitt Bf 109 G6. He is smoking a cigarette, waiting for his crew to finish refueling and rearming. Stigler is not a rookie. He is a predator. A veteran Jagdflieger fighter pilot with 27 confirmed kills to his name. He needs just one more. One more kill and he earns the Knight's Cross, Germany's highest military honor. It is the medal every pilot dreams of. It brings fame, respect, and immortality. As Stigler looks up, he sees a dark speck limping across the sky. It's trailing thick black smoke. A B-17, alone, wounded. It is the easiest kill he will ever see. Stigler tosses his cigarette into the snow and scrambles into the cockpit. The Daimler-Benz engine roars to life. The ground crew pulls the chocks, and the sleek gray fighter hurtles down the runway, lifting into the air with lethal grace. Back in the bomber, Charlie Brown has no idea death is climbing to meet him. He is focused on the horizon, trying to navigate a plane that by all laws of physics should have already crashed. The intercom is static and groans of pain. The guns 11 heavy. 50 caliber machine guns that make the fortress so formidable are silent. Most are jammed or frozen. The rest have no one left to fire them. Stigler climbs fast. His 109 cuts through the clouds, closing the distance in seconds. He spots the bomber ahead. He checks his gun sights. He flips the safety off his cannons. He approaches from the rear, the classic 6 o'clock position. This is the kill zone. A 2-second burst into the cockpit or the wing tanks will turn the American plane into a fireball. Stigler tightens his grip on the stick. He aligns the reticle over the lumbering, smoking silhouette of the B-17. He is 500 yards away. then 300, then 200. He is close enough to see the rivets. He is close enough to see the tail turret shattered by previous fire. He eases his finger onto the trigger button. One squeeze. That's all it takes to win the Knight's Cross. That's all it takes to end the suffering of the men inside that metal carcass. But then, Franz Stigler sees something that makes him freeze. Something that doesn't make sense. Through the torn fuselage, through the massive gaps in the B-17 skin, he can see the crew, the airspace over northern Germany. Altitude, dropping to 20,000 feet. Franz Stigler takes his finger off the trigger. He blinks, trying to process what he is seeing through the armored glass of his canopy. From a distance, the old pub looked like a straggler. Up close, it looks like a grave. He drifts his fighter closer, dangerously close. He is now flying just 20 feet from the B-17's tail. The slipstream buffets his light Messerschmitt, but he holds it steady. He peers into the gaping holes of the American bomber. It is a flying skeleton. The fuselage skin has been peeled back like the lid of a sardine can. Stigler can see the internal ribs of the airframe. He can see the exposed control cables twitching as the pilot up front wrestles for survival. But what stops his heart is the tail gunner's position. The glass is shattered. The twin .50 caliber guns are hanging limp, and there, amidst the wreckage, he sees the gunner. Or what's left of him. The terrifying spray of red ice coating the interior tells Stigler everything he needs to know. Stigler feels a knot tighten in his stomach. He has shot down bombers before. He has watched them burn, watched wings shear off, watched crews bail out. That is war. That is the job. But this isn't combat. This is murder. In that fraction of a second, a memory flashes through Stigler's mind. It isn't the Führer's speeches or the propaganda broadcasts. It is the voice of his commanding officer from North Africa, Gustav Rodel. You are fighter pilots first, last, always. If I ever hear of one of you shooting at someone in a parachute, I'll shoot you myself. Stigler looks at the B-17 again. The guns are silent. The plane is barely holding altitude. It is dragging itself through the air, bleeding hydraulic fluid and oil. To me, Stigler thinks, this is a parachute. If he fires now, he isn't defeating an enemy. He is executing wounded men. He makes a decision that could get him executed for treason. He engages the safety on his cannon. He pulls back on the throttle and slides his fighter alongside the bomber's fuselage. He flies past the waist gunners. He can see them clearly huddled in sheepskin jackets, frantically tending to the wounded. They look up, eyes widening in sheer terror. They grab for their machine guns, swinging the barrels toward the gray shark hovering outside their window. Stigler doesn't flinch. He knows they won't fire. He can see the desperation in their movements. The guns are frozen or jammed. If they could shoot him, they would have done it by now. He drifts forward, wingtip to wingtip with the B-17. The two aircraft are locked in a surreal formation, soaring over the hostile German countryside at 200 miles per hour. Inside the cockpit of the old pub, Charlie Brown feels a shadow fall over him. He turns his head to the right. His heart stops. There, just yards away, is the black cross of the Luftwaffe. He can see the rivets on the fighter's engine cowling. He can see the pilot's eyes. Brown grips the yoke, his knuckles white. He waits for the muzzle flash. He waits for the explosion that will rip him and his crew into atoms. This is it, he thinks. He's toying with us. He's looking for the best angle to finish us off. But the flash doesn't come. Instead, the German pilot does something impossible. He nods. Stigler points a gloved hand downward. He mouths words that are lost in the roar of the engines. He gestures frantically to the ground. Land, he is saying. Land! He knows the B-17 cannot make it back to England. It is a flying wreck. If they try to cross the North Sea, they will drown. Stigler wants them to set it down in Germany. They will be captured, yes. They will become POWs. But they will live. The wounded will get doctors. Brown shakes his head. No. He pushes the throttle forward, stubbornly refusing to surrender. He doesn't understand the gesture. He thinks the German is mocking him, or maybe trying to lure him into a trap. Stigler sees the refusal. He looks at his fuel gauge. He is burning gas fast. He looks at the horizon. They are approaching the Atlantic Wall, the heaviest concentration of anti-aircraft guns on the coast. If this American idiot keeps flying straight, the German flak batteries on the ground will tear him to shreds in seconds. Stigler's mercy will mean nothing if the ground gunners finish the job. Stigler realizes he has to do more than just not shoot. He has to intervene. He looks at the B-17, then at the wall of flak guns approaching in the distance. He takes a deep breath, banks his fighter, and slides directly underneath the belly of the bomber. He is going to use his own plane as a shield. The German coastline. Altitude. 1,000 feet and dropping. The roar of the engines is the only sound in the world. Underneath the B-17, Franz Stigler is flying with surgical precision. He is so close to the American bomber's belly that the oil leaking from its engines smears onto his own windshield. He is playing a deadly game of bluff. Below them lies the Atlantic Wall, a coastline bristling with flak cannons, machine gun nests, and searchlights. Usually, a low-flying B-17 would be torn apart here. The sky should be filling with black puffs of exploding shells, but the guns remain silent. Through the sights of the German anti-aircraft crews on the ground, the silhouette is confusing. They see the massive American bomber, yes, but glued to its side, hugging it like a shadow, is a Messerschmitt 109. The ground commanders hesitate. Is the fighter capturing the bomber? Is he about to shoot it down? Is it a secret Luftwaffe test flight? They cannot risk firing. A shell meant for the American might destroy their own pilot. Stigler knows this. He is betting his life on the hesitation of his own countrymen. Inside the old pub, Charlie Brown is bewildered. He looks out the left window. Nothing. He looks out the right. Nothing. The fighter has vanished. Has he gone? Did he give up? Suddenly, the gray shape rises on the port wing again. Stigler settles his fighter right off the B-17's wingtip. He is close enough that Brown can see the sweat on Stigler's forehead. He can see the stiff collar of his flight jacket. For miles they fly like this. Two sworn enemies, wingtip to wingtip, soaring over the rooftops of Nazi-occupied Europe. It is a surreal formation of one dying giant and one lethal predator acting as its guardian angel. They cross the coastline. The brown earth gives way to the gray, choppy waves of the North Sea. They have made it. They are out of German airspace. Stigler checks his fuel gauge. The needle is bouncing on empty. He has pushed his luck as far as it will go. If he flies any further west, he risks running into British Spitfires or P-47 Thunderbolts. If they see him, they won't hesitate. They will kill him before he can blink. He has to leave, now, but he tries one last time to save them. He looks across the gap at Charlie Brown. He points urgently to the north, Sweden. It's a neutral country. It's a short flight. If they turn north, they can land safely. They will be interned for the rest of the war, but they will be alive. Brown stares back. He is exhausted, freezing, and terrified, but his jaw is set. He shakes his head. He points the nose of his shattered bomber toward the endless gray horizon of the North Sea, toward England, toward home. Stigler understands. This American is crazy. Or brave, or both. The German ace accepts the decision. He eases back on the throttle. His fighter begins to drop back, the distance between them widening for the first time in minutes. But before he breaks away, Franz Stigler does something that will haunt Charlie Brown for the rest of his life. He aligns his plane one last time. He looks Charlie Brown in the eye. He stands straight up in his cockpit and he salutes. It is a crisp, formal military salute, a gesture of respect from one warrior to another. Then, Stigler banks his Messerschmitt hard to the left. He rolls away, his engine screaming as he dives back toward Germany, back toward the war, back toward a secret he must keep or face the firing squad. Charlie Brown watches him go. He is alone again. The adrenaline fades, replaced by the crushing reality of their situation. They are over open water. The plane is shaking violently. The wind is howling through the cockpit. They have 250 miles of freezing ocean to cross in a plane that is falling apart. Brown looks at his instruments. No radio. No hydraulics. No compass. He looks at his crew. The sergeant is dead. The others are bleeding out. The German pilot gave them a chance. He gave them a head start. But he didn't give them a miracle. As the coast of Europe disappears behind them, Charlie Brown realizes the hardest part wasn't surviving the enemy. It's going to be surviving the flight home. The English Channel is usually a gateway to safety. Today, it looks like a graveyard. Charlie Brown is wrestling a ghost. The old pub is no longer flying. It is falling with style. The drag from the shattered nose and the missing chunks of fuselage acts like a giant air brake, pulling the bomber back, daring it to stall. Brown's arms are burning. He has been physically fighting the yoke for hours, correcting the plane's drift every few seconds. If he relaxes his grip for a moment, the left wing will dip, and 40 tons of aluminum will cartwheel into the freezing waves below. He checks the fuel gauges again. They are tapping the empty pins. Inside the fuselage, the silence of the crew is terrifying. The adrenaline has worn off, leaving only the cold and the pain. The blood on the floor has frozen into slick, dark patches. Then, through the mist a shape, not water, not clouds, land. A jagged coastline emerges from the gray soup. England. Brown doesn't have the altitude to reach his home base at Kimballton. He needs concrete, and he needs it now. He scans the ground frantically. He spots a tower, a runway. It's the 448th Bomb Group at Seething. He doesn't have a radio to call the tower. He doesn't have a flare pistol to signal an emergency. He just has a dying plane coming in hot. He drops the landing gear. Thud. Miraculously, the wheels lock. But he has no hydraulics for the brakes. He is coming in fast, too fast. The tires screech against the tarmac, sending up plumes of blue smoke. The bomber shudders, groaning as it barrels down the runway. Brown stands on the rudder pedals, fighting to keep the plane straight. The end of the runway is rushing toward them, a line of trees that will turn the cockpit into a coffin. He cuts the engines. The plane screams, slows, and finally stops. Just yards from the tree line. Silence. For a long moment, nobody moves. The only sound is the ticking of cooling metal and the wind whistling through the bullet holes. Then the ground crews arrive. Jeeps tear across the grass. Mechanics and medics sprint toward the plane. But when they reach the old pub, they stop dead in their tracks. They stare. They have seen damaged planes before. They have seen planes come back on 3 engines. But they have never seen anything like this. The tail gunner's section is practically gone. The rudder is shredded. The nose is open to the elements. The fuselage looks like it was attacked by a giant with an ice pick. "How the hell," one mechanic whispers, running a hand over a jagged hole in the wing large enough to crawl through. "How is this thing in one piece?" The medics carefully pull the wounded from the wreckage. They are rushed to the base hospital. Sergeant Eckenrode's body is removed with somber reverence. Charlie Brown climbs out of the cockpit. He is shaking. His legs feel like jelly. He lights a cigarette, his hands trembling so bad he can barely hold the match. He is alive. Against all odds, against all logic, he is alive. But the war isn't done with him yet. 2 hours later. Intelligence debriefing room. The room is warm, smelling of stale coffee and tobacco. Brown stands before the intelligence officers. He is exhausted, still wearing his flight suit, his eyes rimmed with red. He tells them everything. He tells them about the flak, the fighters, the destruction. And then he tells them about the Messerschmitt. "He flew right next to us," Brown says, his voice raspy. "He looked me in the eye. He escorted us to the coast. And then he saluted." The pen of the intelligence officer stops scratching across the paper. The room goes quiet. The major in charge leans forward. "Say that again, Lieutenant?" "He let us go, sir." "He didn't shoot. He saved us." The officers exchange glances. This is impossible. The Luftwaffe are monsters. They are the enemy. They strafe civilians. They bomb cities. They do not show mercy. This story is dangerous. If word gets out that a German pilot showed chivalry, it could ruin morale. It could make the bomber crews hesitate. It could humanize the enemy in a war that relies on hatred to fuel the killing. The major stands up. His face is hard. "Lieutenant Brown," he says, his voice leaving no room for argument, "you are to tell no one about this. Not your crew, not your family, not the press." "Sir?" Brown asks, stunned. "This never happened. There was no German pilot. There was no salute. You survived because of your skill and luck. Do you understand?" "But sir," "This is an order, Lieutenant. We are fighting a total war. There is no room for gallantry here. This incident is classified top secret, sealed, immediately." Brown swallows hard. He thinks of the man in the gray fighter, the man whose eyes he met at 20,000 feet, the man who risked his own life to save them. By ordering silence, the U.S. Army Air Force is trying to erase Franz Stigler from history. And for 40 years, they succeed. Charlie Brown goes on to fly more missions. He survives the war. He goes home to West Virginia, gets married, has kids. But he never forgets. He keeps the secret locked away in the back of his mind. But every night, when he closes his eyes, he sees the gray shark. He sees the salute. And a question begins to burn in his soul. A question that will eventually consume him. Who was he? And is he still out there? January 18, 1990. Miami, Florida. 47 years have passed. The world has changed. The Third Reich has been dust for decades. The Berlin Wall has just fallen. Charlie Brown is no longer the terrified 21-year-old wrestling a dying bomber. He is a grandfather, a retiree, a man living a quiet life in the suburbs. But the ghost is still there. For nearly half a century, Brown has been haunted by the memory of the gray fighter plane. The U.S. government had declassified the mission records, finally allowing him to speak. He began asking questions at reunions. He scoured the National Archives. He searched through endless lists of Luftwaffe pilots. He found nothing. Most German aces didn't survive the war. The casualty rate for the Luftwaffe fighter arm was over 90%. Statistically, the man who saved him likely died weeks or months after their encounter, consumed by the same inferno he had spared Brown from. Desperate, Brown tried a Hail Mary. He placed a small ad in a German fighter pilot newsletter called Gerblatt. It was a shot in the dark, searching for the pilot who escorted a damaged B-17 out of Germany on December 20th, 1943. Months went by. Silence. Until today, Brown stands in his hallway, holding a single envelope. The return address isn't Germany. It is Vancouver, Canada. His hands tremble, just like they did that day in the cockpit. He tears open the flap and pulls out a handwritten letter. "Dear Charles," it begins. Brown's eyes scan the page, his breath catching in his throat. The writer doesn't just claim to be the pilot. He proves it. "I was the one," the letter reads. "I saw your gunner dead. I saw your nose cone missing. I flew beside you. I tried to wave you to Sweden." The words hit Brown like a physical blow. The details are too specific. the missing nose cone, the dead gunner, the wave to Sweden. No official report contained those details. Only 2 men in the world knew the exact choreography of that dance in the sky. One was Charlie Brown, the other was the man writing this letter, Franz Stigler. Stigler hadn't just survived the war. He had started a new life. After flying 487 combat missions an unimaginable number and being shot down 17 times, he had emigrated to Canada in 1953. He had become a logger, a businessman, a neighbor. He had lived in silence, afraid that if he told the story of letting the bomber go, he would be branded a traitor by his fellow veterans. But when he saw Brown's ad, he wept. Brown reads the final lines of the letter. "I have wondered about you for 40 years. I wondered if you made it home. I wondered if you lived. To hear that you survived is the greatest gift of my life." Brown drops the letter to the table. He picks up the phone. He dials the number written at the bottom of the page. It rings. Once, twice. A voice answers. Thick with a German accent, aged by time, but unmistakable in its warmth. "Hello? Franz?" Brown asks, his voice cracking. "It's Charlie." On the other end of the line, there is a heavy silence. Then, a sound that bridges the gap between enemies. A sob. "My God," Stigler says. "It's you. You're alive." They talk for hours. They talk about the cold. They talk about the fear. They talk about the moment their eyes met across the wingtips. But a phone call isn't enough. They need to see each other. They need to stand face to face, not as pilot and target, not as American and Nazi, but as men. They arrange a meeting. A hotel lobby in Florida. Brown hangs up the phone. He sits in his chair, looking out the window at the peaceful American sky. He realizes that the war did untruly end for him in 1945. It didn't end when he landed. It didn't end when he retired. It is ending now. But he has one question left. One question he has to look Franz Stigler in the eye to ask. Why? Why did a man trained to kill, a man one victory away from the highest honor his country could bestow, choose to lower his guns? The answer awaits him in the lobby of a hotel in Seattle, where 2 old warriors are about to close the circle. June 21, 1990. A hotel lobby in Seattle, Washington. The automatic doors slide open. Charlie Brown stands up. He is 68 years old now. His hair is gray, his face lined with the passage of time. He has faced flak, fighters, and the freezing void of the upper atmosphere, but he has never been this nervous. Across the lobby, an older man walks in. He is stocky, carrying himself with the unmistakable posture of a military man. It is Franz Stigler. For a moment, the bustling hotel lobby seems to freeze. The tourists, the bellhops, the noise of the check-in desk, it all fades away. There are only 2 men in the world. They walk toward each other. There is no hesitation, no awkward handshake, no formal salute this time. Franz Stigler reaches out and pulls Charlie Brown into a bear hug. Tears stream down the German ace's face. He holds on to the American pilot as if he is holding on to a long-lost brother. "I love you, Charlie," he sobs. Brown, overcome with emotion, chokes back tears. "I love you too, Franz." Around them, people stop and stare. They see 2 old men crying in a lobby. They have no idea that they are witnessing the closing of a circle that began 47 years ago in a sky filled with blood and fire. They don't know that one of these men was supposed to kill the other. They sit down. The years of silence come pouring out. And finally, amidst the coffee and the tears, Charlie Brown asks the question that has haunted his nightmares and his daydreams for half a century. "Why, Franz?" Brown asks, leaning in. "You had me, we were dead. You could have won the Knight's Cross. Why didn't you shoot?" Stigler takes a deep breath. He looks down at his hands that once controlled a machine of death with terrifying skill. "I didn't have the heart to finish those brave men," Stigler says softly. I flew beside you for a long time. You were trying desperately to get home and I was going to let you do it." He looks up, his eyes locking with Brown's. "I could not have shot you down," he continues. "It would have been like shooting a man in a parachute." There it was. The code. Stigler explains what he saw that day. He didn't see an American bomber. He didn't see a target. He saw a crew of terrified young boys, wounded and defenseless, refusing to give up. He saw the struggle of the pilot fighting the controls. "In that moment," Stigler says, "you were not my enemy. You were just people. And I wanted you to live." Brown realizes the magnitude of the sacrifice. Stigler didn't just spare them, he risked everything. If his commanding officers had known, Stigler would have been court-martialed and executed by firing squad for treason. He risked his life, his reputation, and his honor to save men he was sworn to destroy. He traded the Knight's Cross for his humanity. "I was the one," Stigler adds, a small smile touching his lips. "But you were the brave one, Charlie. To fly that wrecked plane home? That was the bravest thing I ever saw. The tension of the war dissolves. The hatred of the era evaporates." In the years that follow, the relationship between Charlie Brown and Franz Stigler becomes something legendary. They don't just stay in touch, they become inseparable. They travel across North America together, they go fishing, they visit each other's homes. They call themselves brothers. It confuses people. How can a Nazi pilot and an American bomber pilot be best friends? But Stigler was never a Nazi, he was a pilot. And Brown understands that better than anyone. They are the only two people on Earth who understand what happened in that cold sky over Bremen. They share a bond forged in the fires of a near-death experience. For 18 years they toured together, telling their story to air shows, schools, and military bases. They become living symbols of peace. They show the world that even in the darkest hell of human history, a spark of decency can survive. But time, the ultimate enemy, eventually comes for them both. In 2008, the final chapter begins to close. March 22, 2008, Vancouver, British Columbia. The engine finally stops. Franz Stigler, the lion of the Luftwaffe, the man who spared an enemy to save his own soul, passes away at the age of 92. When the news reaches Charlie Brown in Miami, he doesn't just lose a friend, he loses a part of himself. For 18 years, they had been a single entity in the eyes of history. You couldn't tell the story of the B-17 without the Messerschmitt. You couldn't speak of the victim without the savior. Charlie is heartbroken, but he is also tired. His own health is failing. It seems that without his wingman, he cannot keep flying for long. And he doesn't. November 24, 2008, Miami, Florida. Just 6 months after Franz says goodbye, Charlie Brown takes his final breath. He was 86 years old. It is a poetic end to a poetic life. They found each other against impossible odds in the infinite sky of 1943. They found each other again, against impossible odds in the vastness of the post-war world. And now, they leave the world together, almost in formation. In the years since their deaths, the story of the old pub and the fighter pilot who refused to fire has transformed from a war story into a legend. It has been written in books, painted in art, and told around campfires. But why? Why does this specific story resonate so deeply? World War II was a conflict defined by industrial-scale slaughter. Tens of millions died. Cities were leveled. In the face of such overwhelming darkness, one act of mercy seems mathematically insignificant, but that is exactly why it matters. Because it proves that even when the world goes mad, the individual can remain sane. It proves that a uniform does not have to define a man's morality. Franz Stigler was taught that the enemy was a monster. Charlie Brown was taught that the German pilot was a faceless killer. But at 27,000 feet, stripped of the propaganda, the politics, and the orders, They realized they were just two men shivering in the cold, two men who wanted to go home. Stigler could have pressed the trigger. It would have taken less than a second. He would have been a hero in Germany for a week. He would have won the Knight's Cross. But by refusing to fire, he achieved something far greater than a medal. He granted life. Because of that one moment of hesitation, Charlie Brown survived to become a father and a grandfather. His crew members survived to live full lives. Children were born who otherwise never would have existed. Generations of people are walking the earth today solely because a German pilot decided that his conscience was louder than his orders. Somewhere in the history books, December 20th, 1943 is recorded as just another day of strategic bombing. The statistics list tonnage dropped and aircraft lost. But in the hearts of those who know, it is the day a shark became a shepherd. It is the day an act of mercy echoed louder than the roar of 1,000 engines. And somewhere, in a place beyond the flak and the fighters, beyond the borders and the flags, two old friends are sitting together. The engines are off. The war is over. And the sky is finally clear,